Hello. Welcome to the Coaching Mixer. We're a podcast where we talk about coaching while drinking something yummy.
I don't know if mine's very yummy today.
Oh, right. Tell me everything. You're on do you call it a cleanse?
I mean, that's what the box says, but I don't think of it as a cleanse because I like the word reset because it definitely
Hmm.
is not like a like stop eating food for a week kind of situation. It's more like try to eat things that are not full of sugar and salt and no cheese, just
That's
hard and
heartbreaking.
sad. Yeah, but I think we're like 3 days in, and I'm actually
Okay.
surprised it has not been as hard as I feared it would be.
Hmm.
I was telling Steve that I did this one a bunch of times when I was in my 20s, like the same thing. So I was like, I know that all the herbal supplements that they give you are all totally agreeable to me. They're like fine with my system. Um, but in my 20s, I definitely had a lot more like emotional meltdowns, even though like
Mm,
I thought I was pretty healthy then, but I'm like, oh, it's really interesting how much more resilient I am about like silly things. Like, but in my 20s, I'm like, this was a big deal and it was very hard. And I'm like, now I've had two kids and I had a little more life, and I'm just like, well, no chocolate.
yeah.
Oh well. Like I'm old and crusty now, so it doesn't matter.
So what are you drinking?
Okay, it's a juice. It looks
Hmm.
like it's very red and orange.
Hmm.
I have to see what's in this. It is carrot, apple, ginger, celery, and lime, and beet. Of course, there's beet because
Okay.
they're red.
Hmm.
It's a weird ratio. Steve was like, "I love this juice." I'm like, "I don't know." He was like, "Maybe it's the cleanse. Your taste buds aren't loving it, or it's too sweet. You've been off sugar for 3 days, so it's it's healthy though. It's healthful and yeah, it's
Hmm.
my keeping me hydrated, I guess.
I guess.
What are you drinking?
I am I didn't really know how to
It's
interpret
green.
healthy drink. So I
Yeah.
made a apple cider seltzer with berries. The berries are just like
Mm.
plopped in there, but it's pretty tasty.
It looks so good. I can't
It is
have
it's
that.
very refreshing. I'm sorry. What about that? Is
I can have beets. It's my
beets
sugar.
only?
Yeah. Um,
Too much sugar, you said?
yeah, it's like it's just trying not to have overprocessed sugary stuff. I'm gonna have blood red lips. I'm gonna look
Hmm.
like a vampire by the end of this episode. I'm sorry, everybody.
I'm gonna try and make you laugh as much as possible so we can see the progression of your teeth as you drink the beet juice.
Like red wine. I'll just do that.
No, let it shine.
Let it shine.
So
Yeah.
tell me, like, why a reset? Is this something like, have you been thinking about it for a while? Like, what went into you deciding to do this?
It kind of came up in like a one of my esoteric meditations, and I just
Mm-hmm.
got some guidance that like it would be good to do, even
Hmm.
though this is not the time of year where I would normally gravitate to doing this. Like, I think changing up the food routine is really great in the spring because I still follow like a Chinese medicine way of thinking about food. And if you are gonna make a big shift, it's really nice to do that springtime where you have other things in your life like sunshine.
Right. Right.
The winter is when I just like crave, comfort food.
Yes,
Um,
same.
and gosh, this winter with everything we've talked about over the last couple of episodes, I
Yeah.
really crave comfort food. But I did
Mm-hmm.
notice that like after I kind of sat with that guidance, I was like, yeah, I think it would be good to just change up the patterns that I'm not in love with about how I eat because I am definitely a person who can eat like the first meal of the day could be really late in the morning not super
Hmm.
hungry when I wake up. Um, I will drink like a coffee or two sometimes before I eat. And then middle of the day, that's when it's like, oh, I don't want to have the energy. I don't have the time. I don't want to like make a whole thing. I'll just eat cheese and crackers. And then my only like real nutritious meal will often be at dinner. And I am now lifting weights like many times a week. Not
Hmm.
like powerlifting or anything, but I definitely noticed that this would be a good time in my life,
Yeah.
given the training that I'm doing, to just add more like actual food with actual
Hmm.
nutrients into my world. And honestly, I'm finding it hard to like eat as much as they recommend.
Mm.
It's like it's
Hmm.
so much more than I would normally eat.
Hmm.
So much more salad than I would ever eat.
Yeah. Are you finding like, even if it's more than you normally eat and you're struggling with it, do you find like, is your body kind of happy for the amount of fuel that you're giving it?
Like so far, um, I'm tired today. It's gray, and I think I am having one coffee a day, which is like part of the plan. So you're
Uh-huh.
allowed to have your coffee, but like only one coffee a day means I definitely feel like I want to take a nap. I want to go to bed super early. Um,
Hmm.
it's probably like actually more, I'm actually probably more in the wintry rhythm right now with how my
Yeah.
system feels. And as entrepreneurs do, it's so easy to just override that, to be like, oh, I'll just have a coffee. I don't need a nap. Like
Hmm.
all these like very small things that don't seem harmful, but I do know that they build up, and I'm just
Hmm.
catch it a little earlier than I might normally
Yeah.
do in the year.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. We were talking for listeners, we were talking before we started recording about how we're both like in sort of nap mode a little bit.
Mhm.
So this will be an interesting episode. I
Yeah.
think probably for you as well. It's just like kind of cold and dreary and it's been cold for a while and I'm just like feeling it today.
Yeah. We bought cross country skis last week. I was like, we just need to find something to
Ooh.
do in the winter. So we might get out and do that like on the weekend. So I'm like, I'm gonna find a way to like get through the rest of this winter with like looking forward to it snowing again.
Hmm. That's so fun. There are people, I live right next to a pretty big park, and we normally don't have snow stick here. Like
Mhm.
it snows a couple of times a year, and it usually melts within like a couple of days. But it's stuck around for like over 2 weeks, and people are going cross country skiing in the
Mhm.
park. It's so fun to watch them.
It's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids watched the Olympics for like 5 minutes and they were like, we need to learn how to ski and snowboard and all
How
this stuff. I'm
cute.
like, let's just start with going on a flat field.
Yeah, see how you like that, and then we can
Yeah.
build. How fun. All
Okay.
right.
So, do you want to share what we're talking about today?
Can I remember what we're talking about?
Ooh.
Right, different kinds of medicine. So like in sort of theme with the idea of a reset and like exploring different things that your body might need. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but
I
like
like it.
in exploring like what our bodies might need, um we were talking about how we take like different approach, like different clients might need different types of approaches. Different quote unquote problems might have different medicine for them. And so we thought it might be fun to talk a little bit about some of the different forms of medicine that we've brought to our coaching, maybe that we've experienced as clients, just to underscore that even if you have trained under one methodology, there is no one size fits all to coaching, and it can be fun. Like we can have fun as coaches playing around with different tools and different forms of medicine.
Yeah. I also think it's super helpful, especially if you are kind of going deep with one methodology of coaching. It's really easy to kind of get a little bit dogmatic. Um,
Hmm.
I've been there. about like,
Hmm.
this is how you coach and this is what you do and don't do. And this is coaching, but this is not coaching. And we all kind of like have our own tools and ways of doing it that we love. But I think this is really fun when people move into coaching coming from some other professional background. It also means that the medicine you bring can be from those other parts of your life. So
Yeah.
I might not teach formal yoga and meditation very often these days, but if someone's really struggling and the mindset tools I have are not doing it,
Hmm.
I can offer it if they're comfortable to do some more meditative work. I can do some visualization. We can do um, some yogic types of practices on a coaching session. And that might be the medicine of the moment for that person.
Yeah.
What about
And I
you?
also, so I think, yeah, similarly, I don't have like formal training that I can think of outside of the cognitive training. And then some of I've had a certification where there was a little bit more of an emphasis on like somatic experience for the clients. But I'm not an expert in that by any means. But like outside of that, I think previous experiences, like my experience in theater, I think means that I I mean, in general, coaching I do think is a very collaborative practice, but like I think I have some particular tools related to that, and I've like built a muscle of collaboration over the years that I definitely bring to my clients.
Mhm.
Um, I think my years in taking therapy, um, not trained as a therapist, but I do think I have like kind of built a tool of like being able to identify when my client might just like need validation or might need to be able to like talk and feel. And that was actually a pretty big one because when I was certifying and maybe a little more dogmatic about the cognitive coaching work, I felt a tension around like between when it seemed like my clients might just need to like feel and not be challenged in a cognitive way. And I made myself wrong for that. And I
Mm,
think part of like my maturing as a coach was allowing myself to follow that instinct and like actually see some wisdom in that.
yeah. Yeah, it's tricky because like I even wonder, I'm like, did you make yourself wrong or was like that offered to you from the cognitive coaching perspective?
I think both,
Yeah.
to be honest. I think it definitely was the lens that I was learning at the
Mhm.
time. And I think I made myself wrong in like kind of a punishing way for it. And I think I didn't challenge at all some of what I was learning or like the idea that like what I was learning was one tool of
Mhm.
many and that there I might be identifying a need for some other tools.
That's such an interesting one too. Like sometimes the medicine is giving somebody a safe container to actually say out loud all the things that have been kind of pent up inside of them. And then
Hmm.
from the cognitive approach, I have heard just to say I might understand where you've been. Um, like I've had people interrupt me in coaching and saying, you're letting them wallow, you're letting them go down the drain with their story, you're letting them like you're like we're as though I was harming them by letting them tell me
Right.
what they were experiencing. And so yeah, I had that actually that specific tension for quite a long time, even when I was like, this might be,
Okay.
didn't hear you. Oh, yeah, there you are.
Um, my microphone is being weird today,
I can
and
hear
my
you now.
headphones.
Your headphones are. Hang on, I'm just going to pause
Okay,
this
let's
for a
see if
sec
that
so that I know
worked.
where to cut. So I had that kind of same tension. And even though I sensed for a while, like kind of intuitively that maybe it was okay. It actually wasn't until I did a course with a therapist, and the very first day of the course, they went around. There was probably like 10, maybe 12 people in the room. And they said, we want you to introduce yourselves in a way that maybe you never allow yourself to like not in like a professional way, like tell us who you really are. And
Mm-hmm.
that lasted for 6 hours.
Wow.
And the therapist sat and held space. People cried. It was really intense, but it was like a
Mm-hmm.
master class in this is a very highly trained person, very well respected therapist with students all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And she never once interjected, told someone to hurry up, told them that they were wallowing, like rushed them along. There was none of it. She like waited till
Yeah.
they were complete. And that probably was more healing for some of those people than anybody saying, well, that's a terrible thought. Why are you thinking that thought? Or like whatever people say in like our
Or
cognitive.
like the friendlier version of that, which is like, is that thought serving you?
Right, right.
Quote
Tisk,
unquote
tisk, tisk,
friendlier. I don't
tisk
think it's
about
actually
that thought.
friendlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes the medicine is like listening with your full attention.
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes listening with some clients looks like drawing them out a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Like I don't think that's a tool. I mean, it is a tool that we talk about drawing thoughts out
Mm-hmm.
in cognitive coaching. We talk about like asking pointed questions to get at the thoughts, and then we can coach on the thoughts. But I don't know that we talk about like creating wide open space for stuff to just like bubble up enough at least. I think I can't pinpoint like one moment where I realized that this was actually like a form of medicine, but I do know that there was one very moving session that I had with a client who I was actually coaching in another program. It was like a 25-minute session, and she had been grappling with a health diagnosis that she had overcome, and then she was facing possibly having it recur. And she was holding a lot, like I could tell she was holding a lot back in how she was talking about it, and she was focusing on like how to keep like her business going and stuff. And I don't know how we got to this place, but at one point she was like chastising herself for thinking that like her circumstances were kind of shitty at that moment. And I was like, I can't just not say something. Like I felt like I had to create space for her to acknowledge that her circumstances kind of sucked at the moment. And then the session became her having this incredibly moving processing experience of all of the things that sucked in her life
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, and me being like, that does suck.
Yeah.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
And when I tell you like how she was at the beginning of the session to the end of the session, it was like a completely different person. It was like 50 pounds had been lifted off of her shoulders from me like breaking all of the rules of coaching, agreeing with her like maybe like bad thought that this
Yeah.
sucks, and just like validating her experience. And
It,
that like once I experienced that session, I was questioning a lot about what I had learned about coaching, because there's no way that wasn't valuable. There's no way that experience was not its own form of medicine. And so then I think that did help me listen to myself a little more when I noticed my clients maybe holding back, and like rather than trying to like coach on the thought, I just like focused on trying to create some more space for them.
oh, I have chills. Yeah, because the other way of doing it, it's you create we create a dynamic with the client where it's almost like a gotcha moment. It's like, let me blow your mind and tell
Hmm.
you that thought is terrible and you need a better one.
And you could just choose a better
Yeah, just choose a
one.
better thought.
Yeah.
Why would you choose that thought? Um,
Yeah.
and then it creates like they have to be then defensive when they're trying to bring something real and they have to have a wall up. And I mean, I watch it all the time with people in our service-based world. Like, I know I shouldn't think this. And like they do this kind of
Hmm.
defensive ramp up and say,
Yep.
no, this isn't a positive thing to think. Like, please don't attack me when I tell you how I really feel. They kind of do this posturing about, I know it's temporary, I know it's going to change, but
Yeah.
I really hate this person I work with. Like, okay, well, maybe the person you work with is a jerk. So
Hmm.
I've kind of thrown that out the window because I don't think it ultimately serves like a deep transformation in the way that, yeah, agreeing with people around their story is also medicine. Not having to have them have a prettier story for you so that you can wow them with your mindset tricks.
Hmm.
That's medicine.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
get so much further with people by just saying, yeah, that this does suck. And I think you have every right to feel the way you feel. Let's start
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
So good.
How do you distinguish that from, actually, I'm not going to frame this as a question. I'm just going to say my
Please tell
thoughts
me.
around
Yeah,
this
yeah,
and
yeah.
then like please jump in. I struggled, I think, on how to distinguish that between that from like validating in a bad way or like supporting a client maybe like causing themselves harm. And I think a big thing that has helped me distinguish between those um is the client on their own side. And if a client is not on their own side, I think validation can be very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Because often clients, especially clients socialized as women, they present with a lot of self-judgment anytime they're feeling something that's not like rainbows and daisies.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they're angry with someone or like frustrated or afraid, they're like blaming themselves for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's like a first step of like can we try and understand you? Can we try and like look at you through a compassionate lens and like look at what's happening through a compassionate,
Yeah.
loving lens? And then we can talk about like changing things, but it's very, very difficult to change thought patterns or behaviors when they're like not on their own side, when they're doing it out of like shame or self-flagellation.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I love that.
How do you like, do you see there being a distinction there? Is that like a helpful
I
binary?
mean,
How do
there's
you view this?
sometimes I think there's some times where people are definitely just like wallowing and reinforcing their story, but I'm kind of like, they're doing that for a reason.
Hmm.
And I'm never going to be the person that says, hey, snap out of it. Like, that's
Yeah.
not
Hmm.
because someone else has already told them that.
Yep. They're telling
So,
themselves
right,
that
they're
like
telling
more
themselves
than I could
that.
ever tell them.
So what I kind of do is I'm like, what if we just follow it right to the end? Like, if we follow the horrible thought you're thinking, that you're saying is a horrible thought and it's not helpful and you know you shouldn't be thinking it. It's like, okay, sure, I'm not going to chastise you for that either. But like, what if we just follow that a little deeper? We find out
Hmm.
like, where did that come from? Who benefits when you think that? How might it be true, but be more complex than you're allowing it to be?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times the terrible things we think, I don't want to like say every time because I think then some people will say, this is what that coach said. And so every time someone does this, it's an act of self defense. It's not always like self protection, but if something has been repeated enough that it becomes like an inherent belief and part of someone's story,
Hmm.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that that is actually helpful in some way. Because my big pet peeve is like the, well, that thought's not serving you. Like,
Yeah.
well, what if it actually is? What if every thought we think is serving us? Serving us by keeping us safe, It's serving us by keeping us small, under the radar. If we say something bad about ourselves first, then no one else can say it. Like that kind of stuff is really, I think that's just like a human thing that
Mm-hmm.
happening. So I think like the medicine here is like, I just trust them that what they're saying is true for them. And rather than be poking, as you said, like poking the, oh, like, how is that serving you? How is that not true? How is that? Because then they're just performing for me,
Right.
or they're trying to like get the right answer. And I
Yeah.
coached like that for a while. Like I did actually say,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's serving you. So let's see if we can find something that would be better for you to think, that would be kinder for you. I know that coaches do this because we desperately want to help our clients. We want them to live their dreams and all of the good stuff, but it's the lasting changes. I have never seen those happen from kind of that more surface level. Let's insert a pretty thought over the
Yeah.
negative thought.
Yeah. And that's not to say like some work is just like in doing, I think of it as like doing the muscle reps or something. Like you do
Totally.
have to sometimes build muscles by like
Mhm.
building new neural pathways and stuff. But I don't think that that doesn't work if you don't it's not supported by the deeper stuff.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So like sometimes a tool I'll give somebody if they're working the reps of like a more supportive way of thinking is every time the thought we're trying to shift comes up, I'm like, ooh, it's that alarm bell. That's the static that tells you you're in a place where you need something from yourself.
Hmm.
So we're not jumping to believe it, we're not jumping to react from it, but we're taking a second to say, ooh, there's my check-in alarm. And sometimes that's enough to at least create a separation from something that's been repeated so many times that it is a harsh neural pathway. I don't know if that's how you
Yeah,
what you would call it, but it's like just a
sure.
harsh narrative, let's say.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that. I love viewing. I think what I like about that is it's as a coach, it's assuming that a thought is serving them in some way. And it's like, how do we work with this
Mm-hmm.
thought to create the change that we want to? You don't have to like bludgeon it out of existence. You can actually use it to identify areas that are like maybe tender or need some attention. Because I do think our like maladapt quote unquote maladaptive coping mechanisms, they are emerging to take care of us in some way. So they can be really, really powerful alarm bells. It's just learning how to react to them. Sometimes if you don't create some sort of awareness around them, then you just end up like perpetuating that coping mechanism rather than finding some alternatives.
Yeah, so good. Was
Yeah.
thinking about this too, as a theater person,
Hmm.
um, a creative person, like a piece of medicine. I was thinking about you the other day because I'm like, oh, okay, what are the other things? Like someone asked if you don't like your client. I think that was one of the questions.
Yeah.
Like, what if you don't like your
Hmm.
client? I remember I actually used an old thing, like a theater trick for
Mm.
this. With one such client who was part of a couple who did not want to be there and had to be.
Mm. Yeah.
But when I was in theater, I had to do a love scene with somebody who was really not an actor, was also kind of forced to be at theater school. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to like have like romantic feelings on stage for this person that is does not want to be here.
Mm.
It's a little awkward, like a nice person, but just like we don't have any chemistry. And I was just like bemoaning to my acting teacher. And he was like, find something you like about the person. Like
Hmm.
find something you like about him. Like his ears are nice. Don't you think he has nice ears? And I'm like, his ears are lovely. He was like, well, fall in love with his ears. Do a love scene to this guy's, like we were 15, do a love scene to his ears. And I'm like, gonna do it. It
Amazing.
went really well. The teacher was like, I was proud of you. That audition got me a lead in the show that year. Like it was
Wow.
good, but this has been a helpful tool in circumstances where maybe you're teaching a group of people and their company made them all be there.
Hmm.
That like a little bit of medicine is like just find something to love about
Hmm.
the people you're coaching. Because even if
Hmm.
they are salty and they don't want to be there and they think everything you're talking about is total bullshit, there's something I think it's kind of like a kill them with kindness situation. But
Yeah.
if you can create an opening, sometimes amazing things happen.
Hmm.
I've taught classes and workshops with people who are sitting back, just did not want to be there. And I'm like, I'm going to make it my mission to just like be really open and curious to this person. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to bring them in. And it doesn't always work, but it's one of those things where like it's like a deep curiosity
Hmm.
aimed at a person. And I do think that that can be medicine for the client.